Hello and welcome back to Humans in Society. This video focuses on the subject Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person and the topic Human Person as an Embodied Spirit.
As with any reality, a human person is a tangible body with intangible components, the mind and the soul. A human person has physical self and a cognitive self. The physical self shows who a person is. It shows one's biological characteristics and capabilities like body shape and build, height and weight, hair and skin color, strengths and weaknesses, talents, and even illnesses. The cognitive self shows what is important to the person. It contains one's thoughts and feelings, beliefs, and intentions. The spirit is the core of the person. It is our most important essence. It contains our morality and our hopes and dreams. It is what drives our thoughts, words, and actions. It is what makes us think differently from other animals. An embodied spirit is the union of the body and the spirit, which is the mind and the soul. Therefore, a human person is an embodied spirit. Transcendence is the ability to change for the better by surpassing our limits. The spirit has no limitations, but having a body means there are physical and mental limitations to our abilities. In order to surpass these limitations, people look to religion and philosophy to improve themselves and transcend. Hinduism is one of the oldest Eastern traditions practiced by millions of people for about 5,000 years. Hinduism talks about the quest for absolute truth, so that the soul and the Brahman, or the absolute soul, might become one. The is the root of the universe and everything that exists, and it continues to hold everything together. According to Hinduism, human beings have a dual nature, the immortal essence, which is the soul, and the empirical life, which is the body. Between the two natures, it is maintained that the soul is ultimately real. The existence of the body is considered as nothing more than an illusion or an obstacle to the individual's realization of its real self. Hindus believe that the soul is eternal, but is bound to the material world by the law of karma. Humanity's life is a continuous cycle called samsara, where the body goes through a series of life and death, while the spirit transmigrates from one creature to another. This process is called reincarnation. Through the law of karma, if the person has lived a good life, the soul goes upward the scale. On the other hand, if he has been evil, he may pass onto the body of an animal. There will be no end to the cycle unless the person makes an effort to liberate his spirit from the cycle. Moksha is the enlightened state wherein one attains true selfhood and becomes one with the Brahman. This is the time when the embodied spirit is said to have transcended. Another major Eastern religion is Buddhism, founded on the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, also known as Buddha. Buddhism also talks about the body as the vessel for the spirit, as well as samsara and karma. But the major difference is that Buddhism teaches that the solution to the riddle of life suffering and death lays in man's own mind. He removed the Hindu importance of gods, rituals, and incantations from his teachings. Buddha shares the law of salvation called Dharma. This involved the cultivation of spiritual attitudes and self-involved discipline, where bodily pleasures are channeled in the right direction. This perfection of character will allow the person entrance to nirvana, or enlightened wisdom, at death. The Four Noble Truths of Buddhism are: 1. Life is full of suffering. 2. Suffering is caused by passionate desires. 3. Only as desires are removed will suffering cease. And 4. Such eradication of desire may be accomplished only by following the Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path are the right belief or understanding of the Four Noble Truths, right aspiration or intention for oneself and for others, right speech that harms no one, right conduct or action motivated by goodwill towards all, right means of livelihood or earning one's living through honorable means, right endeavor or effort to direct one's energies towards wise ends, right mindfulness or attentiveness in choosing topics for thought, and right meditation or concentration to the point of complete absorption in mystic ecstasy. In this state, the effects of karma are overcome, the cycle of rebirth is broken, and one may rest in the calm assurance of having attained a heavenly bliss that will stretch through all eternity. Over time, changes have been made by those who practice Buddhism, and there evolved different sects of Buddhism practicing today. Theravada Buddhism practices the original teachings of the Buddha and can be found in South and Southeast Asian countries like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Thailand. Mahayana Buddhism practices are evolved forms of Buddhism found in East Asian countries of China, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan.
Monotheistic religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam believe in the one true God. This is the perfection that humans aspire to. For our purposes, we will be focusing on Christianity, whose teaching is that God is the way, the truth, and the light. There are two philosopher saints who talk about transcendence. Saint Augustine believes that God is wisdom, and since philosophy is the love of wisdom, then philosophy is also the love of God. However, we can only love what we know. So knowledge of God begins with faith and is made perfect by understanding, because all knowledge leads to God. For St. Thomas Aquinas, of all creatures, human beings have the unique power to change themselves and things for the better. We are both spiritual and body elements. The unity between both elements help us to understand our complexity as human beings. Our spirituality separates us from animals because through our spirituality we have a conscience. Thus, whether we chose to be good or evil becomes our responsibility. No matter which religion one adheres to, they all offer limitations and possibilities for transcendence, calling them different names but having similar meanings. The limitations for man's transcendence are evil and suffering. Evil causes man's suffering, and suffering is caused by evil. Natural evil cannot be controlled by man, like tsunamis, earthquakes, or droughts. Moral evil arises from the imperfections of man. Because man is imperfect, we sin. Metaphysical evil arises from the dependency of man to nature. The sins of man causes other sins. Suffering is caused by the evils of the world. For Hinduism, suffering in life will lead to enlightenment. For Buddhism, suffering gives rise to compassion for the suffering humanity. And for Christianity, suffering leads to the cross, or the symbol of God's saving love for man. The possibilities for man's transcendence include forgiveness, nature, vulnerability, failure, loneliness, and love. When we forgive, we are freed from our anger and our bitterness because of the words and actions of others. Therefore, we are free to improve ourselves and move on. There is perfection In nature, the miracle of accepting the beauty of nature and appreciating it is a moment of grace that gives us time to reflect on how we can improve ourselves. To be vulnerable is to be human. To live without acknowledging the help of others is to live without meaning and direction. We need to acknowledge the help of others in our lives because such moments of dependence is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of being true to ourselves. We accept that we cannot do everything, and therefore we have room to improve. Our failures force us to confront our weaknesses and limitations. It will cause us to make improvements in ourselves and trust that all can be brought to good. Our loneliness can be rooted from vulnerability or our fear of getting hurt or dying. However, it is impossible to always be happy. With when we experience loneliness, we realize that there is hope from our sadness or our solitude. And to love is to experience richness, positivity, and transcendence, whether in times or moments of struggles. Love can open us to something other than which takes us beyond ourselves. In Buddhist views, the more we love, the more fears we have, and the more risks we take. The American poet Maya Angelou once said, "If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." And this is what transcendence will allow us to feel. The ideas presented in this video are based on the content standards of the Department of Education. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson.